Brave New Work by Aaron Dignan is exploring how work is changing and the change is accelerating over time. He explores how we got here in the first place, all the way back from Gantt charts to what's going on right now, and then offers some future ideas of how to change work. So what can we learn from this book, and how can we work more efficiently? Now, it is a very ambitious project to look at how history viewed work and the changes back then, all the way to predicting future work. So I have 3 different areas that I think should be the takeaways from this book. 1, work is changing. There's no doubt about that. 2, empowering your people will provide the best results. And 3, that this change is going to be very difficult because of all these historical things that we have built into our present work situations. Like it or not, the work dynamic is definitely changing. We have all these articles discussing, hey, do we work from home? Do we work in the office? Where do we fit? How do all these things interact? And what tools do we need to use to do that? We wouldn't be having these conversations even 10, 20 years ago because it was a much different environment, and we have many different technology innovations that have allowed us to move forward. The book provides many examples of how in the past things were done to increase efficiency, such as Henry Ford breaking parts of building a car into small segments so that workers could be trained in that small part really well and speed up production overall. And so in that way, efficiency was increased. There was a tendency towards centralization to speed along processes. However, instead of having Gantt charts, we have moved into agile methodology. And in the same way, we're moving back towards decentralizing and looking at the individual contributor to provide better things. You first kind of start seeing this with Toyota, where you have the pull line whenever you see a problem. If I was trying to capture the entire book in 5 words, it would be empowering people leads to greatness. If you empower employees, if you provide trust in them that they will do the right thing, great things will come from it. The theme is very different than how we have historically done work. Instead of centralizing all work under one person, we're asking you to decentralize it across a lot of decision makers. Instead of doing one thing extremely well, where you can never mess it up, we're asking for people to have a wide range of experiences and make their best judgment calls. It really boils down to, hey, do you believe a person is capable of making the decisions that are best for the company, or that they're so self-centered that you need to provide the direction and their daily schedule and micromanage them to such an extreme that they do not veer away from the company goals and guidelines. And this dynamic is where we see a lot of this tension. Another way to look at it is that historically we have been kind of the babysitter, where we're trying to make sure employees don't do something wrong, otherwise we'll tell on them and we have processes to stop it from happening again. We're so concerned about someone misusing $20 on an expense report that we're willing to have meetings that cost millions of dollars to prevent that abuse. Now that we bought into empowering employees, how do we move from this babysitting culture where we make sure they do nothing wrong to being their partner in doing all the right things? Well, that culture shift is very difficult. There's lots of hurdles that he brings up where people are very reluctant to change things. In particular, lots of leaders get paid a lot of extra money. There is lots of incentives for them not to change anything at all. He suggests it starts off with a small cadre of people to grow out and do great things, and use little tiny steps to build momentum. As the momentum of that small group changes, as they start bringing in more and more people to work in this empowering environment, the entire culture starts changing because they can't afford not to if the results are amazing. Now, this all sounds great and amazing. However, this book really isn't for me. Because so many different ideas are covered, I feel like a centralized theme was really difficult to come away with. So I struggled with coming together with a review of saying, hey, this is what this book is about, partially because it covered all these different areas. Then the research seems just a little light. We start off with Ford, McKinsey, some of those other great people at the beginning, and then we jump all the way over to WeWork and Spotify and things along those lines. There is a large amount of area in between where we should have seen the evolution of empowering people and how that had greater benefits and greater things. We see one example of Toyota, but otherwise we really don't see this and see the evolution of how his thoughts came to be. Finally, there seems to be lots of generalizations going on. even in the examples of where culture change went well for his company or where his consulting did not help out the company and had difficulty, they were made up companies. And he even states it in the book that, hey, these are amalgamations of a bunch of different companies. When you're left with that, there's something lacking there where I was really looking for more specific examples. If you can get over some of my hesitations and go back to some of the themes I brought out at the beginning of the review, give this book a look. If not, come back and tune in again, and we'll talk about other great books that you can read to become a better business leader. Thanks. Bye.